Economic Recovery and Growth Plan out, National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 in, as President Buhari launches documents that contains blueprint for Nigeria's development. And Senate retreats in its reported bid to override the president's veto, says it will wait for the House of Representatives as it instead passes the 2022 appropriation bill. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, coming to you live from Channels Television's global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Kayode Okikilu, and tonight we begin at the presidential villa, where President Muhammadu Buhari today presided over the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House. Well, a look at the calendar indicates that this might be the second to the last FEC meeting for the year. Well, shortly before the meeting started, President Muhammadu Buhari launched Nigeria's National Development Plan 2021 to 2025, approved by the Council in November at a meeting which was presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Now, prior to the public presentation of the official document, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, disclosed that the new document replaces the ERGP, that's the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020. Now, the ERGP had three broad strategic objectives. And let's just tell you that those three broad strategic objectives include restoring growth, investing in the people through job creation, youth empowerment, social inclusion, and the rest. And the third one is building a globally competitive economy. But let's take a look at the projections of the ERGP for 2020 and today's reality. So the ERGP 2017 to 2020 projected a GDP growth of 7% for 2020. Today, we're at 4% GDP growth. Next is inflation rate, which was projected at 9.9%. Well, today, the inflation rate is 15%. For unemployment, it was projected to be 11.23 as at 2020. Well, today we're at 33.3% in a nation where poverty rate is at 40%. Now, all of these, these figures, by the way, are according to the Bureau of Statistics. So that's for the ERGP. But let's talk about this new plan. That's the National Development Plan. Well, the Minister of Finance says it is designed to, among other things, facilitate the nation's robust development in the area of science and technology, as well as achieve its agenda on the continental and global levels. Well, those physically present at the event, Ministers of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, and that of Power, Abubakar Aliyu. We had the Minister of Justice as well, Abubakar Malami, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Niyi Adebayo, as well as the Minister of State for Education and Budget, National Planning, Clement Agba. Well, the Governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, was there also to represent the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State. Well, still at the State House, but on party politics this time around, the Governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, who was at that presentation, the unveiling of the National Development Plan, dismissed talks that the APC will become submerged by dissenting voices within the party. Well, in a chat with State House correspondents today, the governor maintained that one of the hallmarks of a good democratic system is the disparity in opinion. And as such, he believes that the difference in views will culminate in a better shaped society. He further underlines that the conflicting ideas has strengthened the party in productive ways, reminding that under the chairmanship of the current National Caretaker Committee, Mai Mala Buni, 3 serving governors, 1 serving deputy governor, a number of serving senators, as well as members of the National Assembly have joined the party.
There will never be one voice, and we don't pray there will be one voice. We pray that people should be able to express themselves, bring different ideas, even when there are conflicts in those ideas, within the systems created by the democracy, sit and iron them out. To suggest that because there is dissent or differences in opinion, that it will affect the fortune of our party, I think that is quite far-fetched. We are a party that recognizes that for us to continue to deliver, we must debate, we must compete, we must bring ideas to governance. But mind you, remember that particularly in the last 2 years under the current caretaker committee chairman, Mai Malabuni, 3 serving governors, 1 serving deputy governor, a number of serving senators, members of National Assembly, former that have joined the party. And that is the best evidence that this party is continuing to deliver in the promises that Nigerians have trusted us with under the able leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari.
So while all of those meetings were holding at the State House, the Senate was holding a very crucial plenary over at the National Assembly. Their colleagues at the lower house, that's the House of Representatives, had closed for the Christmas and New Year holiday yesterday. But the senators decided to stay back to deal with 2 very important issues: the 2022 appropriation bill, the budget, and the much talked about Electoral Act Amendment bill, which the president had declined to give his assent. So there were indications that the Senate was not going to pass the budget until they were clear on what to do with the rejected electoral bill, which is now back on their table. In fact, a federal lawmaker, Senator George Sekibo, had confirmed to Channels Television that he and his colleagues had already gathered 73 signatures with the intent to override the president and pass the bill into law. Well, a quick crunching of the figure shows that 73 of 109 is more than enough to override the president's veto, at least for the Senate. But don't forget, the lower house also needs to meet the same provision of 2/3 for the override to sail through. But what happened today on the floor of the Senate was quite different from what some had expected. We'll bring you some prominent perspectives on that bill tonight and the implications for the nation. But let's tell you that the Senate joined the House in passing a 2022 budget of 17.126 trillion naira, and that's against 16.391 trillion naira, which was presented by the president. And that's an increase of 735 billion naira. But let's give you a further breakdown of the 2022 appropriation bill. Now, 3.8 trillion naira is for debt service. If we could just show you that right now. 6.9 trillion is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while 5.4 trillion naira has been budgeted for capital expenditure. By the way, the Senate increased the benchmark price of crude from $57 to $62 per barrel. And of course, this is expected to increase our revenue generation, which is a crucial one. So those are some of the issues that played out on the floor of the Senate. But let's bring you some more top political stories, and we'll be back for that all-important conversation on the fate of the electoral bill. Here's our political roundup.
The Ebonyi state government has inaugurated its arm of Ebubeagwu, the regional security outfit created to improve safety of lives and property in the southeast. Governor Dave Umahi performed the official launch, which took place at the Pa Oruta Ngele Township Stadium in Abakaliki, the capital, on Tuesday. Governor Umahi, who promised to ensure the provision of maximum security for all Ebonyi citizens, said Ebubeagwu has come to stay.
What we have here is very lawful, and will continue to be for the benefit of our people.
The governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has given the go-ahead for a bailout fund to the tune of 850 million naira for local government councils in the state for payment of December salaries and pensions. Mr. Obaseki explained that he got the recommendation from the state's Ministry of Finance, which confirmed that the councils are yet to receive allocation from the Federation account, even after the December 18, 2021 FAC meeting in Abuja. As residents of Ogun State prepare for the Yuletide celebration, the state governor, Dapo Abiodun, has called for moderation and responsiveness in the face of the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic. He made the call in Abeokuta, the state capital, during the swearing-in ceremony of 5 new judges for the State Court of Appeal and Magistrate Courts. The Kayode Fayemi administration in Ekiti State is racing against time to ensure all projects at hand are completed before the tenure expires next year. 2021 has been eventful for the administration, with significant projects completed and commissioned. But the governor says there's more to come in less than 1 year to go. A group of young people trading in Wambe Market, located in the heart of Kano metropolis in Kano State, has come out of their shops to lament the situation of digging foundations on the scarce land near their shops at Line Dung Agogo. Wambe Market is known for trading of second-hand goods in Kano for about 40 years. The market has been undergoing infrastructural development of modern shops in recent times.
It's a day after the president's letter was read on the floor of both chambers of the National Assembly, and all eyes were on the Senate to see its official response to President Buhari's declining assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. And it was looking like the first override of President Buhari's veto was going to take place today. But that was not to be, as the Senate President Ahmed Lawan indicated that what may be some sort of retreat, saying that the upper chamber will consult with the House of Representatives when it resumes January next year on how to respond to President Buhari's letter on the bill. Well, Senator Lawan made this known after the upper chamber rose from a closed-door session to deliberate on the president's decision yet again, and of course centers around the direct primaries provision in that amendment. He also said, that's the Senate President, said that the Senate resolves to consult with constituents on the bill during its recess. So perhaps a way to douse the tension which we saw yesterday and live to fight another day, as they say, we'll see. But why did the lawmakers insert that provision in the first place? I mean, Clause 87, Section 87, whichever way you want to call it, which talks about the nomination of candidates by parties. Now, that particular clause says a political party seeking to nominate candidates for elections under this bill shall hold direct primaries for aspirants to all elective positions, which shall be monitored by the Commission. I mean, why did they change it from the old one, which gives the option of direct or indirect primaries for elections, which may be monitored by INEC? So that's the new provision right there on top. Well, the lawmakers say it is to enshrine internal democracy and take the party back to the people, as it were. And they say that the conduct of congresses have been hijacked by the governors, and for them, this is not fair. In fact, this is said to be a unanimous decision by the National Assembly. So what do the governors have to say about this? Now that the president has returned the bill unassented to, are they heaving a sigh of relief? Well, let's find out from one of them. He's a leader not just in his state, but his sub-region. We're joined on the program tonight by His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ebonyi State, Governor Dave Umahi. He joins us tonight virtually. It's good to have you on the program, Your Excellency. I mean, earlier on, we saw you in that security apparel relaunching Ebube Agu, which I should say looked fitting on you. So let's just begin from there. Why did you have to relaunch Ebube Agu?
How do you mean? How do you mean by relaunching Ebube Agu?
I mean, Ebube Agu was launched, as it were. I mean, we had the states in the southeast coming together and saying that, well, this is the way we're going. So why did you have to do this yet again? Because the law establishing it had been sorted out. So why this relaunch, as it were?
I'm not sure that we actually launched it. We established it. Many of the southeast states assented to it. You know, the law made by the various houses of assembly in southeast states. But the leaders of southeast, the Ohanese, the religious leaders, directed that each of the 5 states should, as a matter of policy, do launch their Ebube Agu in each of the states. And then we set out a day that we all come together at Enugu and then do the general, rollout. So that's what we did today to beat the December deadline that was offered to us.
So, I mean, there was this unveiling at the, Security Council, and that was as far back as I think in April this year. So, what was different then, with what's happened today?
It's just a ceremony. The Ebubago, has been working, in Ebonyi State, and I also believe it's working in other states of Southeast. So, but it's just the inauguration, formal inauguration. That's what we call the launching of it, as agreed, in our Southeast leaders meeting.
So, in terms of collaboration with other Southeast states, I mean, how much are you on the same page with other governors in this establishment, and what is the modus operandi of your own security outfits in collaborating with others?
Well, the Ebubago is supportive of other security agencies in our various states. Don't forget that Imo governor was the first to sign Ebubago into law, being passed by his House of Assembly. There was also collaboration, by our attorney generals, that went around all the states. They also consulted the governors and other leaders before they came up with a harmonized bill, which we passed in our various states. And so I think it is, the same opinion, the governors, working on this Ebubago thing. And like I've always said, that Ebubago is not that we are going to have one central command, in Enugu, and then maybe somebody from Imo is coming to work in Ebonyi. No, that is not the idea. The idea is that we have this Ebubago, in our various states. We share information. We can, use the center, which is in Enugu, the Board of Governors, governing body of Ebubago, which we just have one to be at Enugu, that can call for training and retraining and so on and so forth. So we share information. We also help ourselves. For example, if somebody, did something in Ebonyi and is running to Enugu, through the efforts of Ebubago, sharing intelligence, and of course security agencies, help will come, and that is very useful.
Well, the proscribed group IPOB has vehemently spoken against, Ebubago, and I wonder for you, are you worried about, those pronouncements, and what is the plan really regarding IPOB, ESN in your state and sub-region?
Well, it is not something I should talk about. I should concentrate talking about Ebubago, because you know very well that even if they were IPOB and even if they meant well, the activities in the past 1 year has been hijacked, and all kinds of atrocities are, being committed in their names. And so it's not something that anybody is happy about. The Southeast economy has been destroyed. There's killings. There are still places that sit at home in Southeast, even when they say, look, we don't want to sit at home again. But the criminals, we no longer have kidnappers. We don't longer have armed robbers. They all claim to be ESN and the IPOB. And the IPOB, knows this. And again, there are too many people that are speaking for IPOB. You see any man in the comfort of his room outside the country speaking for IPOB. So it's not something that Southeast governors are worried about. We are worried about general insecurity in Southeast and how we are tackling it. And that's the duty we signed to protect the lives of our people. So we don't care about somebody in the comfort of his home and they're talking all kinds of things. We are legitimate government, and an illegitimacy, should not be given attention. That's our position.
Well, I mean, there will always be questions also about the Yuletide and how, security agencies will come together, because this is usually a high peak period with people traveling, especially, to their hometowns, villages, to celebrate with family. But, Governor, let's get into the big one, the talk around the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which has its ramifications as well for state executives, because this has been pitched as though it's some sort of running battle between lawmakers and governors in the states. Perhaps a battle for control of the party and all that. But I'd like to get your opinion first on the president's decision withholding his assent. Some have described this as throwing away the baby with the bathwater. Do you agree?
Well, let me say that there is no battle between the legislators and the governors. The party politics and party administration and leadership, quite clear in the various political parties. I would rather, congratulate Mr. President for not assenting to the bill. I will also commend the legislators very well because they did very thorough work. The issue of electronic transmission and so on and so forth, so it's something that we should commend them. But as good as the work they did, the problem of that Electoral Act is this issue of direct primaries. And when I listen to people, speak about this, they're more concerned about, that it is altercation between governors and the legislature. It's not so. It's not true. Nobody's been able to speak to the points that Mr. President says these are the reasons. And let me tell you something that you must know. You see, the opposition in this country, whether it's PDP or APC, I think there should be, seminar and training on what opposition ought to be in a democracy. If Mr. President has assented to the bill, and then the confusion mentioned, and which I'm going to, speak to this evening, they will say, oh, it is the making of APC so as to scuttle democracy, and then for us to seek the APC to seek third tenure. Now, let me let me start with the issue of multiple litigation, arising from this. If, for example, in my state, I have 171 wards, and let's say in the issue of governorship primary, for example, and there are, say, 10 people contesting for it. Now, these 10 people are, in one party. They're supposed to now, appear, of course, with their representatives in all the 171 wards. Now, if one person wins, remember that we are not good at accepting defeat. The tendency is that 9 people are going to institute, litigation against the winner, the same political party, and they will be talking about the 171 wards. Keep it there and think of the fact that there may be 20 political parties, that are going to also be participating, in their various political parties. Think about the number of litigation that is going to be arising out of this. That is number one. Number two, look at what happened in Anambra State, where people adopted direct primary. Look at the result of the main election and the result of the primary election, where some people were getting 250,000 votes during the primary election, and then during the election, they got 43. Is that not telling Nigerians something? That there will be an act of desperation, people trying to populate the party register, even more than the population, the national population. And this is what is going to happen. Because
let me quickly follow up.
Wants to say, look,
pardon me, let me quickly follow up on some of those points you have made, so we don't lose trail of these important points. So the two examples, the one about litigation and the talk about the primaries that you had, discrepancies, this is essentially a failure of the party, because parties are essentially meant to conduct, their primaries in a free and fair manner. Some will say litigations actually arise when other candidates feel cheated, when they don't see the process as free, fair, and credible. And for the discrepancies as well. I mean, a party should have its own, directory. I know your party has done some form of registry and all that in recent times. So isn't that a failure of the party? And it shouldn't be blamed on the law itself, because the law is clear.
Yeah, you can, you see, there is a saying that says you do not try a man in the area of his weakness, And this is a country that even when a woman has miscarriage, is blamed on Mr. President. So the beauty of it is that Mr. President has said, look, these are going to be the problems of these direct primaries. He's not asking the lawmakers to override or not to override. It's up to them. It's democracy. But if these things begin to play out, let nobody blame the Mr. President. And you cannot say the political parties that is their failures. Yes, we know it's their failures. You know, these political parties members are human beings, you know, and the activities are subject to manipulation. And that's what you're saying. What is the essence of direct primary? You want, you know, to deepen democracy. You want, you know, people to participate. But I'm telling you the implication of this, you know, lofty ideas, what are going to be the bubble traps, you know, associated with this direct primaries. And they're obvious. And let me tell you something. Even the PDP Governors Forum had condemned, you know, these direct primaries. They had condemned it. And even my brother Wike that was speaking, all he said is, oh, the president would have assented to that. Must he do it his own way? The president feels that there is a need to ask in the National Assembly, can you please take a look at these issues? You know, maybe they didn't look at all these issues. But if they look at these issues and say these issues are not, you know, problems, you know, what Mr. President may be seeing, you know, may not be what they are seeing. And so if they think that it is not non-issues, the important thing is that, you know, there is the whistle has been blown, you know. So that's what I think.
Right. So I'd like you to listen to, I mean, the view of one of the lawmakers regarding this. You know, your party set up that tripartite committee to look into some of these issues and more. So I'd like you to listen and then get your response.
We stand on the legislation passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly, and it is irreversible. We have concluded that the law stands. We are returning the party back to the people, that is conducting direct primaries. We believe that that is the only way we can ensure internal democracy within the All Progressive Congress. The conduct of the congresses, right from the ward level up to the state level, was being hijacked by the governors. And we felt that as a remedy to this, in order to save our party, it's better we adopt the direct primaries. This is the only way the party can survive and can face all other parties that will contest with the All Progressive Congress. We have respect for the governors, we have respect for the members of the executive, and we have always done their bidding. But this time around, we want direct primaries to stay. And no member of the National Assembly has said no to this.
So that was Senator Lero speaking after the tripartite meeting last month. He was presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and he referenced hijacking of the party by governors. He says that this is the best way forward to ensure internal democracy. How do you respond?
You see, I'm surprised that a former governor could say that governors are hijacking parties. What seems as if governors are hijacking parties is that the governors are the people at home with the members of the party. And when people even talk about, direct primary is the only way of giving the party back to the people, I just laugh. There is no governor that doesn't have at least 100, government officials in each of the wards. That's number one. Number two, there is no governor that is not the one who, through contributions, from friends, paying the salaries of the party officials. The governors are the people that are keeping the parties alive in the various wards. So these are the commitment of governor that seems as if they're hijacking, the National Assembly members don't really have a government structures in the various wards. So we have to come to understand that. And let me tell you, there is no governor that will be threatened by the issue of direct primaries. For me, it's not an issue. What is an issue is the confusion that this will create. And it's important that we discuss the confusion so that when they begin to emerge, let it be that they were foretold that this thing would come.
So, Your Excellency, we need to go to break now, but you have raised some points. And also, for a lot of Nigerians who do not belong to political parties, they probably won't be able to understand the import of this. So we'll try to break it down when we return from this break. And we'll also be getting another opinion, this time from a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana. All of this and more in a moment. Please stay with us. So we're now concluding moments with His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ebonyi State, Governor Dave Umahi, who's also the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum. Thank you for staying with us. So this is a very interesting debate, and let me just break it down as we wind down in this conversation. So you say that since governors own, the governance structure, as it were, some will say he who pays the piper dictates the tune, so they should have more say compared to lawmakers. And then the lawmakers will tell you, we are closer to the people, right? So we essentially know what the people want. So I mean, which one carries more weight at the end of the day?
I never say that, he that pays the piper. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that anybody saying they want to deepen democracy by giving the party to the people, is misplaced. That governors are much closer to the people. And how would the lawmaker say that it's closer to the people than a state governor? It is not, tenable at all. But the real issue is that I think the war we have is actually the war, with the press, because the press has not been able, to discuss the main issues. People are playing on sentiments, playing on the psyche of people. Let's talk about the real issues. People should provide solutions to the issues that Mr. President, has initiated concerning direct primaries. This is very important. And he talked about security. And people say that you conduct election in the various polling units. But we do not understand that party primaries, there is a lot of desperation because it's an individual thing. An individual is doing everything possible. This is a country where, politicians do anything possible to get the party ticket. The moment they have it, they believe that everybody has to queue, behind to, elect, make him to go through the election. So the desperations are not the same. This is very important. And what we are insisting and emphasizing is, look at these issues that Mr. President has said. Look at them, discuss them. If you feel there are non-issues, then there is no problem about that. But the truth is that I've been a party chairman for 4 years. I've been a deputy governor for 4 years. I'm a governor running to 7 years. And so I can understand and I can discuss party politics. And this is very important. Well, so I've conducted many elections, and I know the desperation of politicians when it comes to primaries.
Well, the good thing is that the lawmakers are going back to their constituents to discuss. I mean, at least that's what the Senate president said. And I wonder what kind of conversation you'll be having with your lawmakers in the state. So we'll have to thank you so much, Your Excellency, Governor Dave Umahi, for sharing your thoughts on this topic with us on the program. Clearly, this is an ongoing conversation. I'll look forward to having one with you in the nearest future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, let's expand the conversation. I mean, the president gave at least 6 reasons for withholding his assent. And let's discuss this and more with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, who joins us from the nation's capital, Abuja. Oh, thank you, Senior Advocate, for staying with us on the program tonight. Well, I mean, we had a very interesting conversation with Governor Dave Umahi, and he says that there are booby traps ahead with this direct primary provision. You have spoken about this, but seeing the examples he gave about litigation, about some of the discrepancies, security, do you maybe see reason?
Well, with profound respect to the president, I've read the reasons adduced, and we have to look at the law, the Electoral Act, the Constitution, as well as our recent experience in democratic practice. In the first place, we have to appreciate that we are not dealing with the internal affairs of the ruling party.
We're dealing with the nation. We're dealing with democracy in Nigeria. We're dealing with internal democracy. Under Section 87 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended, there is provision for direct or indirect primary. Direct primaries have been provided for by the law. It's not a recent, it's not a new phenomenon. As a matter of fact, and this is very important for all of us, the first time the APC as a political party adopted direct primary in Nigeria was, I think, 27th of July, 2018, in choosing the governorship candidate of the party in Osun State. And that was how Mr. Boyega Oyetola emerged out of 3 candidates. I think the then Deputy Speaker, Honorable Lasun, and the Speaker of the State, the House of Assembly at the material time, contested. Mr. Boyega Oyetola emerged the winner. There was not a single litigation because the process was open and transparent. The second time the APC adopted direct primary was on the 29th of September 2018 in choosing the presidential candidate of the party for the 2019 election. The sole candidate at the material time was President Muhammadu Buhari, who won the direct primary. There was not a single litigation in the entire country. So, direct primaries do not lead to litigation unless the process is manipulated. Whereas in the case of indirect primary, our experience has been very terrible. In each of the states, because of allegations of manipulation, imposition of candidates, you have a situation where money bags will take delegates, house them in some hidden hotels. The other candidates will not be able to canvass or campaign to them. Then on the day, at the appointed hour, they were marched from where they have been hidden. Now, that is a mockery of democracy. And when you are discussing, when you want to contribute meaningfully to this debate, it has to be appreciated that there should be no fixation about direct primary. You must look at the entire amendment in totality. In other words, if you have adopted electronic voting, electronic transmission of results, accreditation by electronic means through the use of the card reader, what is the security? Why is anybody talking about security? Just like the general election will now be conducted, hopefully, by electronic means. You do not need a crowd. And most people would sit in their homes and cast their votes, as it is done in other countries where you practice, bourgeois democracy, and where direct primaries have been adopted. So you are not going to have a crowd. And in any case, even in spite of COVID-19 restrictions, political parties in Nigeria are having mammoth crowds. They are having large rallies. And we haven't had these problems of insecurity as a reason not to conduct election in any part of the country. And therefore, I think there was only the incident in 2015 when the elections were postponed by 6 weeks. Since then, national elections have taken place, primaries have taken place, local government elections have taken place, national elections have taken place. So I would therefore want to suggest that we need to take personal interest, out of this debate so that we can come to a resolution that will advance the democratic process in our country. That's the way I look at it.
Right. So,
because as far as the law is concerned,
please, you can land on that.
As far as the law is concerned, direct primary is part of our Electoral Act. It's not new. Indirect primary, the new thing is that whereas before political parties had options, some have genuinely raised concern that the option was manipulated by certain political interests to the detriment of democracy. And I think this is the position.
Right, so you have sort of picked holes, senior advocate, in some of those reasons given by the president. You touched on security. In fact, you touched on the financial crimes part, where the president expressed concerns about some people perhaps digging their hands into the treasury and the rest. But there's another point that the president made, and I know this is your forte, the area of rights. And the president said that the amendment as proposed, he believes, is a violation of the underlying spirit of democracy, which is characterized by freedom of choices. So restricting the primaries to just direct for the president is essentially taking away the rights, the freedom of choice.
No, on the contrary, you are asking the generality of the people, the members of a political party or members of political parties to take part in choosing those who are going to contest election. That is very, very democratic. And that is in consonance with Section 40 of the Constitution on freedom of association, Section 39 of the Constitution on freedom of choice, so that everybody will have the freedom to choose to participate in choosing those who are going to contest election. Then Section 223 of the Constitution prescribes that elections of principal officers of political parties shall be by democratic means. So when you look at direct primaries, for me, with profound respect, they are a consonance with relevant constitutional provision. And mind you, Section 14 of the Constitution also provides that Nigeria shall practice participatory democracy. So you are not talking of democracy of a few people, maximum participation by the people. And if everybody will have the opportunity to decide who is going to contest election, and the process is transparent, there will be no litigation. We didn't have litigation in Osun State in 2018. We didn't have litigation at the national level when President Muhammadu Buhari was chosen by his party to to contest as the presidential candidate in 2019. So we didn't have any litigation. The question of insecurity was not raised by anybody. Nobody, in fact, but on the 30th of September, the following day, the presidency issued a very powerful statement commending the exercise and recommending it to Nigerians. And you can Google, you get it. It was Mr. Garba Shehu that signed the statement on behalf of the presidency. So these new arguments are really not, do not portray the leadership as consistent. Whereas the direct primary was lauded, was glorified in 2018 for the 2019 election. What has happened now? Except the objections of certain powerful forces. But if it's about democracy, if we are talking about the people, if we are talking of maximum participation of the people, direct primaries are cheaper. Once they are transparent, there will be no litigation whatsoever. With respect to security, people do not have to gather in any place because part of the amendment has made provision. The amendment has made provision for electronic voting. So
well,
you
it's
can
interesting.
stay wherever you are as a member of a political party and cast your vote.
Well, it's interesting you referenced
and
litigation.
And to be electronically transmitted.
So let me take you up on the litigation part.
I can tell you this. I can tell you this. I can tell you this. On litigation, I am telling you, indirect primaries that we have practiced or that have been practiced by the parties have led to multiple litigations. But whereas when you had direct primaries in 2018 for the governorship election in Osun State and for the presidential primary, there was no litigation. So the records are there.
Just to put this in context, senior advocates, don't forget that just on Monday, Justice Inyageko of the Federal High Court gave a judgment regarding that primary in Anambra State that touched on the APC and eventually nullified the candidacy of the APC's candidates in that election. And that was essentially a direct primary. So we've had litigations, and it seemed it has ended bad.
Now, if you follow what happened in Anambra State, the members of the party, leading members of the party in that state, came out to tell the whole world that there was no primary. Some people just wrote the result and declared, thousands of votes when there was no primary. So, and that's why I've insisted, once the process is transparent, and I belong to a political movement, the People's Alternative Political Movement, that has studied this situation and has come up with its own finding, and to the effect that indirect primaries have created more problems for the democratic process in the country.
So if this indeed...
Like, the former governor of Sokoto State said, is susceptible to manipulation. People are accused themselves of hijacking the process. And I listened to the governor of Ebonyi State, Governor Umai, with profound respect. He's talking of who owned the party. No, the people must own the political party, not the governor or the legislators, for heaven's sake. Oh, we are on the ground. Are you talking of your programs and manifestos or policies that will attract you to the people? But if it's just about, oh, we are in charge, we pay people, you pay them with government funds, by the way. That will not really make you closer to the people. And we must go back, and I beg you, we must go back to the politics of ideas and ideology, politics of program, not about, who can control, who can, charter buses to take delegates and have them hidden in hotels. That's not democracy.
So
that's
how
of democracy.
So does this provision then, does it address that issue? Because people will ask you, I mean, what's the much ado about direct or indirect primaries? If the parties themselves don't decide to conduct themselves with integrity, then you can have electronic or the most transparent provisions in the Constitution, but still they will find a way to circumvent it.
No, again, all of us must be prepared, whether we want democracy or dictatorship. If we want democracy, the process must be open and transparent and credible. Once a few people manipulate, we must pursue them and end the culture of impunity in our country. The culture of impunity must be dealt with, and happily, the National Assembly has also worked on Electoral Offences Act, whereby those who make, who manipulate the electoral process, who commit all manners of offenses, who set up young people as thugs, who recruit young people as thugs, will now be dealt with under the law. Once people know that it can no longer be business as usual, everybody will sit up. But once you allow a system that empowers a few people to decide who will contest election at all levels, of course, we are back to state dictatorship, and we should not be allowed. Should not rear its ugly head under a democratic process. So why is anybody afraid? That we should empower the people to participate in choosing or electing their leaders. For me, I'm surprised that people are saying, oh, we prefer indirect primaries, you know, so that the process can be managed. By who? The people must manage the process. And that was the purport of Section 87 of the Constitution. That section gave the parties the option whether to adopt direct or indirect primary. It has now been shown that, and it's been proved, that indirect primaries have created problems for the democratic process.
Well, Senior Advocate, I'd like us to wind down on this. I mean, we've talked about things that happened in the past, where we are right now. But regarding the way forward, this document is back at the National Assembly. There are a few options before the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I wonder, for you, are you confident that the House of Representatives and the Senate would perhaps override the president's veto in light of some of these, you know, facts that you have reeled out, or otherwise?
I think once the attention of the National Assembly members is drawn to our recent experience in 2018, particularly by the ruling party, I'm not sure it will be difficult even to convince the president, you know, that some mistakes have been made. Because there was no reference by anybody to what happened in 2018. The impression was given that this is the first time, you know, the ruling party or any political party in Nigeria will adopt the direct primary. So, but now that information is coming out with respect to what happened in the recent past, I don't think there will be any problem, any difficulty in mobilizing the members of the National Assembly to override the veto of the president, you know. And I think so far so good. And they must be encouraged. And that is the beauty of democracy. That's the beauty of democracy. If it doesn't work, we then go back to the drawing table. But let nobody give the impression that this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that we are adopting direct primary to choose, you know, candidates that will contest election in Nigeria. No, that is misleading, grossly misleading. And it should not be allowed. My organization issued a statement yesterday to the fact that the president of our country is a beneficiary of direct primary. The president in October this year endorsed and commended the use of electronic voting. And the president said, but for the accreditation, but for the fact that the 2015 election allow accreditation by electronic means, I might not have won the election. So we now must be consistent. Haven't commended electronic voting, haven't participated in primary elections. We must now move to consolidate the gains of our recent past.
Well, we have a few days to find out which way that will swing. But in the meantime, we'd like to thank you so much, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, for sharing your thoughts with us on the program tonight. They've proven very vital. It's been a pleasure speaking with you tonight.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Well, that's our package for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Good night.